One evening, Victorion, the female combiner, was on her way back to the lab. As she approached Kildane, she saw James looking rather sorry for himself behind Lexi.
You trying to get out of work again, James?
Teased Victorion. I wouldn't put it like that, replied James. In all seriousness though, Victorion, my safety valve's burst. This lot of scrap needs to go to the smelters. Could you take it from me, please?
You finally get to see your very own sea of rust,
added Lexi.
Leave it to me,
smiled Victorion. Oh, thank you, Torchbearers, said James as Lexi began dragging him away. Be careful when you get there. Arry and Bert really don't like my kin. Soon, Victorion came across a gate and stopped. The signalman stepped out of the box. Ah, you must be Victorion, he said. We've been expecting you.
I'm just ducking in with this scrap for you and heading off afterward,
replied Victorion. The signalman tipped his cap, opened the gate, and Victorion started her way into the scrap yard. As Victorion traversed through the yard, husks of old engines could be seen everywhere she looked. Many memories of the Torchbearer's time back in the Sea of Rust, long before she was first formed, came flooding into her merged mind. The poor Transformers there were in a similar state to the engines, but their ends were arguably far worse. Eventually, two horns could be heard, and from the mist came a pair of Class 08 shunters. Well, what have we got here, Bert? Asked one. I thought all the P2s were turned into the A2-2s under Thompson, Arry, replied the other.
I actually scanned a 00 model, if you can believe it,
said Victorion.
Now boys, unless you want me to dispatch you by my sword, I advise you take my trucks and let these souls rest in peace. The only reason why steam phased out is due to the high maintenance costs, despite the fact you and other diesels arguably release more carbon emissions than them.
The 208 scoffed at this. Don't be daft, growled Arry. Those electrics got what they deserved when the 66s came into the picture. We're more versatile, you see, added Bert. Less expensive than those silly engines thought of by the Conservatives. Now, this obviously wasn't true, but Victorion had heard of the former Other Railway's modernisation plan from the engines, particularly Murdoch. FYI, Manager won't be too pleased if you scrap us, Arry finished, rolling away. When his twin was out of sight, Bert looked over to the female combiner, his face suddenly fallen.
Sorry about him, love, he said. He may never change.
Victorion was rather surprised at Bert's sudden change in personality. Having heard about them from the steam engines, she'd thought they'd both be rude, but Bert seemed to have a change of heart.
What do you mean?
Asked Victorion.
Well, unfortunately, some of mine and Arry's kin are suffering the same fate as the steam engines we replaced on the mainland,
replied Bert.
I was told this by an old steam engine long before your kin became known. Trouble is, there doesn't seem to be an engine to replace the Class 66s as of late due to their high availability, hence why they're regularly seen running trains under the wires. It's because of this high ability that the likes of the Class 58s and 60s have been displaced within years of their construction. Even electric engines have been withdrawn because of them, such as Class 86, 90 and 92s. We do receive diesels here, but they mostly come already disassembled and gutted.
I'd love to chat with you, Bert, was it? But I should really get back to the lab.
Take care, girls, warned Bert. Strange things can go on around here, as I experienced.
The next day, fog had settled over the island, and Victorion was approaching Barrow with a goods train. She'd just crossed the lift bridge when she felt detectors go off under her wheels, followed by a red light shining through the fog. Victorion safely brought her train to a stop, and a workman came up to her.
Sorry, ladies.
She said,
The points here have jammed. We're doing our best to fix them.
and she walked away.
Excuse me? Are you Victorion?
Victorion looked down, and through the fog was a tiny pink diesel with black stripes and two large lamps on either side.
Yes?
Replied Victorion.
Who are you, little one?
So the Fort Controller's engines were telling the truth. I've heard much about you, Torchbearers. My name's Sandy. I will say, seeing you has lifted my spirits a bit.
What makes you say that?
Asked Victorion.
This is my final job before I get withdrawn from Network Rail stock.
Replied Sandy sadly.
I've been seen as too small to keep up with the increasing repair traffic. I'm meant to be stored at the scrapyard until they find time to break me up.
Victorion's spark sank. She heard from the steam engines how most of their families were wiped out, mostly due to the high cost in maintaining them, and some engines, such as Murdoch, didn't last in service as long as they should have.
I'm sorry to hear that, Sandy.
She said,
If I can reach out to the Fat Controller, poor Ruth and Carly have been sort of struggling to keep up with track maintenance by themselves.
Sandy's eyes lit up.
You do that for me?
She asked.
Just because you're small doesn't mean you're not useful.
Eventually, the points were mended, and Victorion was able to bring her trucks into the yards. She soon informed the Fat Controller of Sandy's situation. A fine idea, Victorion, he said. I'll make the arrangements right away.
Let's hope we're not too late.
Victorion thought. Several days later, as the sun was setting over the horizon, Victorion was at Vickerstown, where she was to take a late-night passenger service to the big station.
As she watched Gordon disappear out of sight, the female combiner noticed Arry coming towards the station.
Evening, Vic, he said. Didn't think I'd be away from the smelters, eh?
What are you actually doing here?
I've been tasked to get some scrap off the mainland for processing, replied Arry, and possibly attempt to find some diesels to drive those silly steamies to the scrap lines.
That will be your last mistake, buddy.
Said Victorion darkly.
Just you try it,
Grunted Arry as he headed off.
In the words of James May, what a pillock.
A while later, the sun had fully set, and Victorion was now preparing for departure. As the passengers began to board, she heard what sounded like panicked breathing, and to her surprise, Arry tore into the station and screeched to a stop.
Arry?
Arry looked over to Victorion. He didn't say a word.
It's nothing, Victorion, he said. You'll only laugh.
Arry, I can tell something's wrong. Please, tell me.
Arry just wanted to return to the smelters, but he knew he shouldn't let it boil up over time.
I was getting this lot from the nearby scrapyard, he said. The mainland connection was approaching the station, trapping me in the siding. Then, I heard voices, and when the lights came on, there were tons of filthy diesels with scrap written on some of them. They all wanted to be taken with me for rescue. It was horrible, and I couldn't bear it, so I ran away.
I'm afraid it's true, Arry.
Arry's jaw dropped.
You knew about this?
He asked.
Electrifications is becoming more of a thing on the mainland due to the government's plans to phase out fossil fuel equipment over the next few decades.
Explained Victorion.
Hence why the likes of Pip and Emma's family are planned to be phased out on the top link work, and for your family, I believe it's becoming more uneconomic to keep them all going. The truth is simple, Arry. Your kind is out of date and is to be replaced with something more renewable and useful.
Arry just looked down at his buffers, having processed what Victorion said. He said nothing as he pulled his train away, but as he did, something else came to him.
Why do I feel like something's off with her train? He thought.
Victorion just watched as the 08 disappeared into the night.
He must have also seen Sandy.
She thought.
I'm so sorry, Arry.
However, Arry's suspicions of Victorion's train were right, as no one but him noticed the coach closest to the female combiner didn't belong
in the consist. It was painted cream and green, just like the Express, but it was smaller and had no bogies, just 2 axles. It was filthier and didn't look like a coach belonging on a prestigious train such as the Midnight Special. The guard blew his whistle and the train set off. Over the sound of the engine puffing, there was a loud groaning noise that came from the lead coach. It sounded like it hadn't been oiled in a long time. Soon, the express passed under the signals and was gone in a cloud of steam.
Several weeks later, Arry and Bert were awaiting a load of petrol for the generators. Soon, Victorion's whistle and an unfamiliar horn pierced through the air. "Hell's that?" asked Arry. The 08s soon got their answer as they noticed something in front of Victorion. When she stopped, the twins were stunned to see it was Sandy.
Seems Victorion was right in saying there were two of you.
She said. "Who are you?" asked Bert.
This little one is called Sandy,
Replied Victorion.
and there was more to her withdrawal than met the eye.
"How did I not see you?" asked Arry.
Must have been my size.
Replied Sandy.
I was meant to be transferred over to Wales, but the manager wanted me off the system altogether and illegally sold me to the scrapyard. Needless to say, no book have ever found him and other workmen out, and all are now facing penalties.
"Good riddance," said Bert. "Considering your small size, I'll bet very little money will be made off your remains,"
I thought so too.
replied Victorion.
Anyway, here's your fuel, guys. Where do you want it?
"Leave it to me and Sandy, Victorion," said Bert. "This'll give her a chance to check out the place." Once they were gone, Arry looked at Victorion. "Did you notice something off about your train the other night?" he asked.
Not really.
Replied Victorion.
Just the 6 express coaches.
"Well, there was a 7th one behind your tender," explained Arry. "It was much smaller than the rest. It looked like one of those from the railway's early days." Victorion was puzzled. She pulled the old coaches before, but never on an express due to their obvious limitations. Sandy was soon put to work alongside Ruth and Carly on the railway's track maintenance. The workmen were very fond of her, and she worked without fuss. When she wasn't helping out with the track maintenance, Sandy sometimes performed station pilot duties at various stations. As for the Ironworks Twins, they're different engines now. While they still tease the steam engines, the topic of scrap never comes out of their mouths again. They never tease Victorion and the Torchbearers though, as they're all different from every other engine. Then, one night, Arry arrived at Kildane with a load of boiler tubes for eventual shipment to Croven's Gate. Abby was in the yard, preparing to take up the electric post train, and was presently waiting for the main line connection.
Evening, Arry.
She said. Arry didn't respond at first. The Class 76 could tell what he was thinking.
I can't apologize enough.
"It's not your bloody fault," grunted Arry. "It was that stupid mainland connection,"
Yet if that not what unit didn't trap you,
interrupted Abby.
you wouldn't have learned such a harsh lesson.
Harry's face fell.
Victorion did raise a point the other night, Arry.
Abby continued.
The government's finally making plans to decarbonize the mainland. It took those bloody conservatives long enough.
She grunted crossly. The 08 looked up at the EM1. "There's something else I took notice of during my chat with the Torchbearers," he said, and explained the unusual sight of the old coach in Victorion's train. Abby's look of frustration was soon replaced by a look
of concern.
Well, that squashes a theory.
What theory? Asked Arry.
It doesn't matter what motive power's on the front of the main line's evening services. Steam, diesel, possibly electric, or in Victorion's case, Cybertronian.
Just as the words passed the EM1's lips, a loud whistle sounded in the distance.
Herbert hasn't told her about him yet, hasn't he?
Arry looked down at his buffers and shuddered. For the record, Abby, I hope Edward won't have to tell Victorion at all.